Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we welcome you to this funeral service for the late beloved Mrs. Ruth Wilk. We begin with a scriptural reading from the book of Isaiah. Kol Omer Kra, said the prophet, a voice says, cry out. And I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when a wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will sustain you through my power. Throughout history, people have always turned to the book of Psalms when in times of distress, as well as in times of joy, because in the book of Psalms, the author, according to tradition, King David, tried to capture this range of emotions in the various psalms. And this particular psalm that we're going to read now has been a psalm that has given comfort and strength to our people throughout the millennia. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Roi Lo Echsar Bina Odesh Yarbitzeni Al Mei Menuchot Yinahaleni Nafshi Yeshovev Yancheni B'maglei Tzedek Lama'an Shemo Gam Ki Elech B'geit Salmavet Lo Irara Ki Ata Imadi Shiftecha Umishantecha Hema Yenachamuni Ta'aroch Lefonai Shulchan Neged Sorarai Dishan Tov Hashem En Roshi Kosi Revaya Ach Tov Chesed Yerdefuni Kol Yemei Chayai V'shavti B'veit Adonai Liyorech Yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He guides me on paths of righteousness. He revives my soul for the sake of his glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod to comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. Almighty God, Lord of the living and the dead, the hearts of your children who mourn are heavy with grief. We pray, give them comfort. Overcome now by pain and by tears, help them to remember the triumph and the joy in the life of Ruth Wilk. Overwhelmed now by their loss, O Lord, help them to treasure what is theirs because Ruth lived. Help them to meet their grief with courage, to confront the angel of death with life. When despair threatens, when faith falters, sustain us all, O Lord, our refuge and our strength, our ever-present help, and let us say, Amen. We gather here this morning with heavy hearts to perform a task that our rabbis teach us is the most sacred, the most special act that we ever perform on behalf of another human being. They called it a chesed shel emes, a true act of loving kindness. And the fact is, it could very well be the only completely altruistic act that we do in our lives, because every one of you has come here today out of a sense of love and a sense of concern, a sense of compassion, to escort Ruth to her final rest. And it's an act that you perform knowing that she will never be able to pay you back for doing this. It's an act of pure love. Our rabbis understood also the difficulty in trying to talk to mourners at a time like this. And I think everyone here realizes that there are no words that any of us could say, and no religious rites that we could perform that could possibly expunge the deep sense of grief that each of you feels at this time. Our sages understood that life is not always easy, that it's not served up to us on a silver platter, that we take the good and the bad together, that we take the joyous and the sorrowful, and hopefully, by the end of a person's life, when we weigh out what has happened in a person's life, that at least we can say that the good things outweigh the difficulties. They had a very interesting way of classically phrasing this approach to life. They said, "Chayav adam levarech al hara'a kishem shehu mevarech al hatova," that each of us has an obligation in life to give blessing over the difficulties of life, just like we find benediction in the good things of life. That happens to be a most difficult sentiment to understand. And the students would ask their masters, the teachers, how is this possible? How can we find blessing, which has a connotation of joy, of happiness? How do we find any blessing in the passing of a beloved friend or relative? What benediction can we possibly utter when we're bereft by death and eternally separated from a dear one? And always the same answer came from the masters, the teachers, for they understood that everything that we possess in life, all that we learn and teach and feel, is derived not from immediate experience, but from remembrance of the past. We study what others have discovered and taught and written through the ages. And even in Jewish tradition, as we bless our children, we do not bless them in the name of the living, but we say to our children, may you be as Ephraim and Menashe, as Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. We turn back to Israel's antiquity. Our rabbis understood that every memory that we have, every past association, leaves an eternal imprint on our souls. Does a person ever forget a mother or a father? Even after they've been gone for years, we still find ourselves turning to them for advice, for comfort. What then do we think at a moment like this, where tears are being shed, but memory is beginning, memory that shall endure throughout all our days on earth, and already everyone who knew Ruth has begun to delve back through years past, recalling good deeds that she performed, friendly actions, special relationships that each of you shared with her. And we come to understand that time will eventually dry our tears, but it will leave us with memories. Memories that are sometimes difficult, sometimes joyous, but that are always ennobling, and inspiring. Ruth Wilk was an exceptional human being. And she, as well as anyone, understood that life has its ups and downs. And what she also understood was that we are ultimately judged on how we respond to the difficulties of our lives. There are some people who, when difficulty and hardship strikes, some people just toss up their hands and give up. Say, how can I go on? But not Ruth. She understood that she had a job to do, that she had responsibilities to fulfill, and she stepped into whatever void there was to be sure that there was a rock, that there was an anchor, a pillar of strength for whoever needed her. She was born in Poland, but came to this country as a very young girl, very young child. So for all intents and purposes, she grew up here. Perhaps the most special moment of her life was when she met her husband, Benjamin. They shared together some 35 years of wonderful marriage. And together they faced the ups and downs of life. He worked 2 jobs to support his growing family. And her career was in being a full-time, totally devoted wife and mother. She was such a busy woman. But you know that old saying about how if you want a job done, go ask a busy person to do it? Because as busy as she was, with a house full, she made time for volunteer work in the hospital. She made time to help any family member who needed her assistance. She was always there to step in to help anybody who needed. In raising her family, her dear children, Donald and Ella, Alan and Pat, Elliot, Lolly and Harry, and her beloved son Eugene, whom we remember dearly at this moment. When one sat down to the dinner table in the Wilk household, there was never a dull moment. I think the Hebrew, the Yiddish expression that one would use for such an experience is lebendig. That there was always tumult, always something going on. But it was always with love. There was always food on the table. There was always a table full of people. And there was always something exciting happening. She was truly blessed with a loving family. But she also knew what it meant to lose and to sink to depths of despair. She and her entire family were severely tested in 1969 when her dear son Eugene passed away in January, and just 4 months later, her beloved husband Ben passed away. And her reaction could have been, and I think everyone would have understood, if she had just gone into her room and locked the door. And yet that wasn't her way. She made the family go on. She was the source of strength. She was the glue that held everybody together. No matter what she was feeling inside, she made sure that everybody else came together in strength. This was a woman of great resilience who always had a positive outlook on things. And no matter what the difficulties, her attitude was, tomorrow will be better. At this time, I would like to call upon several members of the family who would like to share with us some of their memories, some of their thoughts, some of their feelings. And I would call upon first Barbara, who is going to speak first of all, Barbara, Ruth's granddaughter, who's going to speak first of all for her cousin Karen, and then has a few words to say on her own behalf. And then after Barbara, we'll call upon Ruth's grandson Jeffrey, then Alan's wife, Ruth's daughter-in-law Pat, then we'll call on Don's wife, Ruth's daughter-in-law Ella, then Elliot will speak, and finally we'll bring back Barbara again to say a few words on behalf of Lolly.
Good morning. First of all, I just want to apologize if I'm a little shaky. Most of my readings these days rhyme with cat and hat and say goodnight to a moon, so I apologize. But I want to thank everybody for coming out here today to honor our beloved Nana Ruth. And I also want to thank, on behalf of all the grandchildren and all the great-grandchildren, Uncle Elliot for opening up his house in the last few months to take care of our Nana. That was a huge gesture, and I know that we are all incredibly grateful, and that was just an amazing act of kindness, and thank you. I'm reading something on behalf of Karen today, who had a very special relationship with Nana. And anytime I've always talked to Karen, she would say, tell me how her and Nana communicated on a different level. And whenever she needed to speak with Nana or hear from Nana, she would send out something telepathically. They communicated just on a different level. And within moments, the phone would ring. And I believed it. I know they had a special relationship. So this loss is tremendous to all of us, and I know especially for Karen. So she wrote a letter that I'm going to share with everyone today. And I also want Karen to know that when I saw Nana in the last few months, I know she wanted me to communicate this to you. She's tremendously proud of you, what you're doing with your children, and the things that you're teaching them. And I know that she's here with us today. So this is from Karen, and she writes, "To my dear sweet Nana, this will be the last letter I'm writing to you, but my thoughts, love, and memories will never change or go away. When I think of you, happiness and calmness fills my heart, and while you were going through the last 7 months, every time I would hear your voice, it still did the same thing, even though it was different from before. The memories that you have given to me cannot be replaced. The love cannot be topped, and the guidance couldn't be better. You are such a wonderful person, so unselfish, so caring, so smart, so incredibly patient. You never were negative or saw bad things in people. You always looked for the good. You would say every day of life is a new lesson learned, and that nothing is a waste of time, good or bad, because there is always a lesson to learn from it. Well, I didn't see anything that needed to be improved in you. I also know that you would want to tell everyone here to take care of themselves. Health is most important. Don't take it for granted. Be good to yourself, and your body would say, well, we will try, and thanks for reminding us. I told you so many times you are my sunshine. When you smile, you light up the room, and when you laugh or giggle, it's such a joy. I will miss that so much. I have always cherished you from the time I was a little girl till now, but even more so now. I can't believe how lucky I was to have you in my life. I remember as a child, I couldn't wait till you came to visit or I visited you. As an adult, it never changed. I cherished every minute because the visits were always too short. Every time you would leave, I would cry and be so sad thinking I would never see you again because you always told me nothing lasts forever. But guess what? You always kept coming back. Year after year, you never let me down. You didn't go away. You haven't let me down, and you were always with me with advice, teaching, tips, and little tricks you taught me that I'll be able to give to my children and hopefully do as good as a job as you did. When we were together, we always had such a nice time. Even if you were just resting, you were never boring. You always had such memories, such advice, and you know I never minded your lectures, your famous lectures. You would say to me, Karen, let me know when you've had enough. And I would say, Nana, I never get tired of listening to you. Lecture away. And you would laugh. And I would say, and then say, I only lecture because I love you. One funny time was on my 28th birthday when Paul and I came up to surprise you at the Raleigh Hotel. Guess what? You were my present. All I wanted was to see my Nana. We had such a great time. Even though Paul and I were the only dark-haired people there, I'm so happy that my children were able to get to know you. They love you, and it makes me so happy when they talk about you. Christopher said to me the other day, don't worry, Mommy. Nana is lucky because she got to be here with us, and now she's up in heaven, and it's beautiful there. We are all lucky. You were a wonderful mother, grandmother, and friend. I was envious of the people who came in contact with you on a daily basis. The waitstaff that took your order, the gas station attendant, people you went to help out or visit because they got to see you more than I did. But our phone calls were always the best. We always had such good laughs and memorable talks. Anyway, I could go on and on about how much I love you and how much I miss you, but you know how I felt, how lucky I was to have you as my special Nana. I will always love you forever, and you have a special piece of my heart with you. I love you, Karen. You're welcome. Thank you for letting me read that. I think that was beautiful. For me, I had a very special relationship with Nana as well, as we all did. And a couple years ago, I remember opening up a bazooka gum. You guys know those little bazooka gums? And in it, I read the fortune on the bottom, and it said, be true to your teeth, or they will be false to you. And I laughed, and I was like, Bazooka Joe is quoting Nana? And, we always said Nana was ahead of her time, and she truly was. I mean, in the last couple years on the market, peroxide and baking soda have now been coming in toothpaste. Tell me Nana hasn't done that for her entire life and told us to do it as well. And, before Jane Fonda made leg warmers look good, Nana was doing leg lifts and lunges and exercising. And now on every street corner in California, you see this place called Jamba Juice. And what it is, it's a juicing place. Nana's been juicing for years. She could have made billions. She was always just ahead of her time and always gave us great advice and, change your oil in your car, like go on a fast. And she might not have left us billions of dollars, but she left us far more value than any sort of monetary assessment. And she bestowed us a lot of good advice, a lot of good wishes. She said, there's a place for everything and everything has its place. And I believe Nana has a place in our hearts now, and she has a place in our actions every single day by choosing to follow her wishes and her beliefs, whether it is good health care or being kind to others. I know we can carry her thoughts and her sentiments with us every single day. We are all blessed because she was in our life, and I am so honored to stand here as her granddaughter, and I will miss her terribly, but she will be with me every day and in the actions and the choices that I make for a lifetime and the things that I pass on to my children as well. So thank you once again for coming here today. We will all miss Nana. Thank you.
I'm so tired of funerals. It means so much that so many have come out to celebrate the life and love of my grandma. She truly personified beauty. And seeing her and knowing her was like touching the face of Grace. I think I'm in shock right now, because I don't know about you, but for me, I always saw Grandma as someone who would live forever. Grandma not only had a healthy lifestyle in terms of food or exercise, but she had a very healthy life spiritually. One thing I learned about Grandma, she had a heart like gold, but I fear and feel for the person that ever got between her and her honey mustard salad dressing. Mustard salad, okay. You could feel the wonderful karma around you when she was in your presence. My heart yearns to hear her beautiful laugh, and I would do anything to see her smile once again. Her smile burns through the fog of sadness and the big haze of tears. It reminds me how much she loved me, how much she loved all of us. I know Grandma is here with us, and I know that she would be so touched by the many people who are here to celebrate her life and the beautiful impact she made on everyone. I remember talking to Grandma about the importance of family. We talked often, whether it be on the phone, in person having lunch, or at many family occasions. Grandma loved letters. I had that special thing with Grandma. She loved my letters. She loved, even if I lived a few miles away, there was something about receiving my letters that made her twinkle with light. She often went on about my handwriting. She loved my handwriting. In college, my roommate Cliff used to say about how he was so jealous because I would get letters from Grandma all the time, even care packages, the rice cakes, and one time we toasted a nice can of V8 that Grandma sent me. That was Grandma, always giving and always trying to spread her love to others. Probably one of the most selfless persons I have ever met. So you'll understand when I say, Grandma was like a small calligraphy pen. Just a simple little pen, but a beautiful pen in the hand of a writing God, truly sending a love letter to the entire world. I think back to when I was younger. Since I was a child, I've always loved fish and having fish tanks. I remember vividly Grandma coming into my room, and I would pull up a chair. We would sit in the dark at my illuminated tank. There were these two fish called gourami, specifically kissing gourami. They swam around the tank, constantly kissing each other on the lips. Grandma got such a kick out of them. I remember her saying to me how beautiful that was, and that if this world could be like those fish, this world would be a wonderful place. That was my grandma, always thinking about love and trying to spread the word and action of peace. She was like a giant dove. She raised her children to learn how to fly. She even helped her grandchildren learn how to fly. And when that time came for each person to take the leap and fly, she was there for the big jump. But as we all know Grandma, we were never alone in our journey soaring through the skies of life, as she was always there keeping us under her wings, protecting us from any danger. I recall just a few days ago I sat with Grandma. She looked at me, and I looked at her. I said some words, she said some words. She pulled my hand and told me she loved me. I did what I call the Grandma test. I said, Grandma, guess what? I got a job as an executive in a Fortune 500 company. She looked at me and her eyes then changed. She gave me this expression like, who are you trying to fool? Then she burst out with a loud laughter. She grabbed my hand and pulled me closer. She then gave me a kiss, and I gave a kiss to her. I will never forget how she gently took her hand and cupped it on my face with the tap, tap, tap on my cheek. It was amazing because I realized just then so profoundly that you don't need words to communicate. You just need love. And her love was all around us, all over. Grandma, when you pulled me closer and told me you loved me, it wasn't my ears that you whispered into. It was my heart. And it wasn't my cheek you kissed, but it was my soul. Just a few months before her accident, Grandma mentioned death to me. Of course, I told her I didn't want to hear a word about it, as I've seen enough. She said to me that death is a part of life, that she wasn't afraid of death, that she lived a beautiful, fulfilling life with wonderful children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. She spoke of a peace in knowing that she would see Uncle Eugene again, Grandpa Ben, and her mother as well. She made it clear that she didn't want to be hooked up to machines, that there was no dignity in such a life. I think it's so important that everyone here in this room know that Grandma lived her life with dignity and grace. She went home to family with that same dignity and grace. It was not a painful or long transition. It was as if you were outside sitting in the sun, a breeze came by, the sound of a wind chime, then silence yet again. But that is how I believe Grandma wanted it to be. In life, Grandma held us in her hands, always watching over us, always thinking of others before she thought of herself. We were always in her hands, and now she is embraced in God's. I remember the joy she had when she became a great-grandmother. Family was so important. She was so excited when she found out about Sky. What a beautiful blessing to the family. When my own mother died, my mother had a wish that my brother and I spoke often to my sister, so that my sister would never forget. Like it or not, for many people, it is hard to talk about one who has passed. I think it is so important for everyone in this room that we talk about Grandma, whether it be at a family dinner or in casual conversation. Let us not make Grandma a memory, but let us keep her alive in our thoughts and conversations. Since hearing of her return home, I have immersed myself in my refuge, music. I could crawl into the spaces between the notes and curl my back up to the loneliness, sadness, and void I feel, and all of us feel. Grandma, who she was, how she lived her life, and those she touched, represented the greatest classical masterpiece ever composed. Her dynamic, harmony, and melody brought about the greatest euphoria to anyone's soul. Her beat and her tempo shall never change. Her music will play forever in our heart, in our memories, and in our life. The music goes on. The echo goes on. To Dad, Aunt Lolly, Uncle Don, and Uncle Alan, I wish there was something I could say to ease the tremendous pain you are feeling right now. I can only offer you a suggestion from someone who has lost a mother himself. When you feel it is too hard to look back in the past and things you might not have anymore, and when it's too difficult to look in the future with the fear about what it might hold, I say do what I do. Take a moment and look into your heart, and then look right to your side, and your best friend will be right there. Living just a block from the beach, I often go there usually for sunrise to see the waves and such. I think next time will be different. I will go there with little pieces of bread in a bag and stand by the shore and feed the seagulls, while feeling the warm sun rise upon my face, just like Grandma used to do. I'll look out to the sea as the sun rises and know that just beyond that horizon, Grandma too stands at the other shore, feeding those same birds. Grandma, I will forever miss you with all my heart. I thank you so much for being there for me, for stepping in to help Dad when my mom died. Thank you for being a role model and a great, wonderful grandma. I am truly honored to be your grandson. Well done. I hope and I pray that I can grow up to be as a wonderful person as she, so that I may see her again someday. I end this by saying the words that Grandma said to me. Grandma, from the deepest parts of my heart and the fruit from the roots of my soul, I end this by saying, Grandma, I love you, darling.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm Ruth's daughter-in-law, Pat. Mom was a very special lady. To me, she was a second mother. I enjoyed her company and loved her very much. She was certainly young at heart and in spirit. She was always very energetic. I had difficulty keeping up with her most times. Her stride was certainly zippy. She was never too tired to listen or offer positive advice. At the drop of a hat, she'd be willing to joint out for dinner, shopping, or a lecture. You could call her any hour of the day or night, and she'd be there for you. She loved going to spas, and I had an enjoyable week fasting with her one summer. She loved Scrabble, and she and I would play whenever we were together. She had many interests and was a voracious reader and clipper. She would send articles of interest to everyone in the family. She was very health conscious. She was a very health conscious person and would fast on a regular basis and go to the gym to exercise on the treadmill and bike. She was loved by all who knew her and was a shining star, a definite Florence Nightingale. As everyone knows, the perfect nurse. She had many home remedies that to this day we still use, and she will be missed by her children, her grandchildren, her new little great-grandkids, and family whose lives she touched. She'll never be forgotten for her gentle ways and kind heart for all the days of our lives.
My name is Ella. I am Don's wife, and I am Ruth's daughter-in-law. I would like to read a poem first that I feel that is appropriate. I was playing with it, but now I feel that it's appropriate. And I would like to dedicate it to Ruth's children. She is just away. I cannot say, and I will not say, that she had departed. She is just away, with a cheery smile and a wave of a hand. She has wandered into an unknown land and left us dreaming how very fair it needs must be, since she lingers there. And you, oh you, who the wildest yearn for an old-time step and the glad return, think of her faring on, as dear in the love of there as the love of here. Think of her still as the same. I say, she has not departed, she is just away. Dear family and friends, I would like to speak about Ruth in celebration of her life, a celebration of 94 years, because she daily celebrated life. This is, in my mind, one of her legacy. How one measures one's human strength is only by character, I believe. Ruth lost her mother at the age of 7, and for the rest of her childhood, she never got the love and care we all need in order to grow and flourish. Yet, there was not a shred of bitterness in her. As an adult, tragedy hit again when she lost her husband and one of her sons. Still, it didn't shake her humanity and gentleness. With all the deprivation and tragedies in her life, she remained so positive, not angry, not with self-pity, not cynical, but instead so resilient. People who are going through trauma, like the kind Ruth did, may relate to the world as a hostile one, but not her. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and a psychologist, observed that the survivors have in common a meaning in their life. Ruth gave meaning to her life by maintaining a young and positive spirit, by her ability to enjoy each day, by loving beauty, appreciating nature. She enjoyed again and again sitting in our porch and listening to the birds or the sunset. She had an unshaken belief in humankind. Maybe God, who traditionally protects orphans, treated her as a favorite child, because despite what she went through, she had a great capacity to love and to give. One of the stories that you heard today about her humanity was her volunteering in a children's hospital. And this came when she had 5 small children, among them triplets. And she used to tell me that when she got overwhelmed with the raising of all of them. She used to go to the hospital, and when she returned from the hospital, she said she gained a perspective about how fortunate she was. Her second legacy is her being the ultimate mom. Ruth created for her children a haven. They grew up feeling secured, special, and totally safe. She gave to the last day of her ability. The story I like most is the story about how she brought a dog for Don when she had the triplets. Don complained to her that nobody asks about him anymore. Everyone asks about the triplets. And with all the crowd household that she had, taking care of babies, running back and forth with the diapers to wash them and hang them on the roof, she bought a dog for Don to cuddle so that he doesn't feel too lonesome. Many of us are blessed with good mothers, but not all good mothers receive back the love they give. Ruth succeeded in what every mom dreams about, having all of her children appreciate her to the fullest and return her back love in buckets. Her being 24/7 in 94 years mother didn't prevent her from respecting herself. This is another testament of her being emotionally so well balanced. She treated her body with respect by eating correctly and fasting. She treated her body like a temple and expounded on her beliefs to just about everyone, as you know. She nourished her soul by constantly being open to learn, and she always maintained her femininity, making sure she looks good, sometimes by adding a scarf, a jewelry. The time I saw Ruth became very emotional is when she talked about losing her mom. My dear Ruth, your mom is welcoming you back to her lap, and she's telling you how proud she is of what you became, who you are, and what kind of legacy you leave behind as a mensch. And all the good-natured souls around her, like Grandma Gittel and Sweet Eugene, together with the angels, are clapping bravo while you join them.
My name is Elliot Wilk, and I am very, very proud to be the third child, the third son of Ruth and Benjamin Wilk. My parents were like many other couples in that they had their special places, their special things, and even their special song. Their song is titled Fascination. The lyrics to the song begin with, "It was fascination, I know." My mother's life was a fascination. If it had been scripted for a book or a movie, it probably would have been rejected as too much fantasy, too unbelievable. Mom wasn't a complicated person, but her life was. She could have been born in this country, but her mother Esther returned to Europe to have her baby there. Mom was brought to this country short of her first birthday as World War I broke out. And when Mom was 7 years old, she and her sister Sally lost their mother. Even though the quantity of years was short, Mom received guidance and love from her mother, which honed her to the ways of a mature woman with insight into family, education, love, and so much more. She attended Washington Irving High School here in New York. She met my dad when she was about 20 years old. Curiously, they were both born in towns in Poland that were no more than 20 miles apart. They spoke several languages in common. They spoke English, Yiddish, and the language of love and hope for a young couple starting out their lives together in 1934 amidst the Great Depression. They had nothing but each other and the future to face together. Somehow, they bought a brand new 1934 Chevy, and they were the talk of the town. My dad loved to maintain and keep his car shiny. 17 years later, Mom told Dad, "It's time to get rid of the Chevy. It's a shanda, it's a shame." He got another car. He got the Packard. Both my parents came from large families, so not to go against tradition, they started a family. First Don, then Alan. Then Mom said, "That's it. The store's closed. It's wartime. We're struggling." Well, my father wanted a girl, and Mother wanted some rest. Needless to say, Dad won out. Dad got his girl, but at the cost of having triplets. Elliot, Eugene, and Eleanor now rounded out a family of 7. It should have been impossible, but Mom had a way of making things possible. We should have been hungry. We were never hungry. Any one of the children could have felt neglected. It never happened. Don got his dog. We could have been deprived, but we not only got what was necessary, we got so much more. It was not easy for my parents to meet the challenges of providing all that they wanted for the children. The bond between them was strong, but it could have been tested. And so they had an agreement. If either one of them ever wanted out of the marriage, the one who wanted out would have to take the children. Well, Mom and Dad were married almost 35 years. And it's funny, while growing up, I really didn't think of my parents as individuals. It was always simply Mom and Dad, a unity. And if I ever thought I could play one off of the other, like if Mom said no to something, and then I asked Dad, he'd simply ask me, "What did your mother say?" When I was about 10 or 11, I remember one evening, Mom was cleaning up in the kitchen after dinner, and Dad was there too, playing his violin for her. Mom liked that. I heard the music from my room, and I had an idea. I went into the kitchen, reached into my pocket, took out some coins, and threw them at my father's feet. Dad stopped playing, put the bow under his arm, and sternly looked over at me over the top of his glasses, as he had a way of doing. I looked over at Mom, and she had a look on her as she was about to lose one of her children. Dad picked up the coins, put them in his pocket. He tapped the bow on his head to say thank you, and then he started playing his violin again. I looked over at Mom. She just smiled and went back to the dishes, and I walked back to my room thinking, wow, am I blessed. Education was always number one with Mom. She pushed us and exposed us to music, to extracurricular activities, public speaking, and of course, the synagogue was always a focal point of our lives. Years later, when I was a single parent of 3 young children, I wanted to bring order into their lives, and I remembered what Mom did. I brought my children to the synagogue and to the Torah. This mother taught me, and this is what mothers do. They nourish. They nourish the body, the mind, and the heart. I love my mother, but how does one come to love one's mother? Well, obviously the bonding starts at birth and continues on throughout life. But I also learned by observation. Growing up, Mom and Dad always took us to family functions, birthdays, weddings, holidays, bar mitzvahs, and more. Mom and Dad always had the open door policy, and family and friends were always coming and going in our home. I had so many aunts, grandaunts, and cousins that were mothers, and I observed how they interacted with their children and with me. Mom encouraged this. This is the fabric. This is the essence of family. And this was the essence of my mother. My mother was my rock. She held us together. And when we lost Eugene and Dad, in a few short months, we could have totally fallen apart. But Mom knew she had to be strong for her children. And after Eugene was gone, Dad told me that when a chain gets shorter, it gets stronger. And Mom knew this too. And then when Dad was gone, Mom kept strong and kept us together. The rabbi asked me if Mom was a career woman, and I said, "Oh yes, absolutely." She was a career mother and wife, and she did it so well. And because God granted her over 93 years, she was able to spread her love among so many generations. Mother taught me and all of you the secret of wealth. It is in giving. Give of yourself and be passionate. If you love someone, be passionate about it. This is my mother's legacy. Cherish it. If you want to honor my mother, spread the word. Love is good. If I wanted to summarize what my mother was all about, I only have to quote what my daughter Julie wrote to me about her grandmother. Grandma brought love, tender loving care, and grapefruits to the house. Mom always told me that a mother is a mother until she closes her eyes. Well, I'm sorry, Mom. In this, I now realize that you're wrong. You've closed your eyes, but your job is not done, and it never will be. We still need your love, your guidance, and your giving. I have always depended upon it, and I always will. I still talk to Dad, and I know he listens, and I know you will too. God commands us to do many things, and amongst the most holy is to honor thy parents. I was so blessed to have such a mother as this one. I only hope that I can continue to honor my mother the rest of my days. So how do I end this eulogy? How do I summarize a lifetime of feelings? It's so complicated, and yet it's so simple. I only have to go to the last line of my parents' song. Fascination turned to love. I love you, Mom.
On behalf of my mother, I'm going to read a poem that she used to read with her mother, and I'll read it to you. It's Barter by Sarah Teasdale. Life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things. Blue waves whitened on a cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell, music like a curve of gold, scent of pine trees in the rain, eyes that love you, arms that hold, and for your spirit still delight, holy thoughts that star the night. Spend all you have for loveliness, buy it and never count the cost. For one white singing hour of peace, count many a year of strife well lost, and for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be. Thank you again for coming out today.
What marvelous tributes these have been to Ruth Wilk, each one so special, each from a different perspective, and each adding a little more to this portrait of an incredible woman. She believed that one's children should be better educated and should learn to fly higher than the parents. She certainly succeeded at that. She kept stressing, learn, read, be educated, be gainfully employed, and give back, which she certainly did through the various charities that she was always sending donations to, through always giving of herself and finding time for others. Again, a lesson that she passed down to all who loved her. And she's remembered by her family, a family that was the greatest blessing of all in her life. Her dear sister Sarah, who's in Florida and couldn't be with us today. Her children, Donald and Ella, Alan and Pat, Elliot, Lolly and Harry, and we remember Eugene with great fondness, as well as her dear late beloved husband Benjamin. Her grandchildren, Eugene and Michelle, Karen and Paul, Lonnie, Jeffrey, Julie, Barbara and Jamie, Benjamin and Jennifer, Michael, Stephen, and perhaps the greatest blessing of all, to be able to live to see great-grandchildren. 7 great-grandchildren. Sarah, Katie and Jennifer, Julia, Chris, Gabriel, and Maxwell. What a tremendous blessing her life was. And in seeing this enormous blessing, we come to realize that with this kind of consideration of solace, that death will eventually lose its victory, and the grave will lose its sting, and all of you will be able to derive out of your sorrows a full measure of benediction, because you are the ones who can feel the blessings of a love that is ineradicable even by death, of an affectionate recollection that can never, ever be blunted. May the Lord grant that solace to those who mourn the loss of Ruth Wilk. And we recite and repeat the words of Job from the Bible. Job, who became the archetype for the human experience because he understood what it was to go through the ups and downs, the difficulties, the trials and tribulations of life. And Job taught us words that have given strength and inspiration to our people for thousands of years. He said, Adonai notan, v'Adonai lokach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. The Lord has given, and the Lord has taken away, but blessed be the name of the Lord. For what Job understood, and what we too come to understand, is that the precious gift that God has given us is infinitely superior to what he has taken from us. We pray that the memory of Ruth Wilk shall continue to be a source of inspiration, a source of strength, and most of all, a source of blessing to everyone who knew and who loved this extraordinary woman. And let us say, Amen. Upon the conclusion of our service here in the chapel, we will be proceeding to the Mount Lebanon Cemetery for the interment, after which the family will gather at the Palace Diner here at the corner of Horace Harding Expressway and Main Street. There will be instructions available to everyone who will be joining the family after the cemetery. The family has also asked that if you be so moved to give donations in Ruth's memory, you received a brochure on your way in. If you didn't receive it, there will be additional copies that you will receive on your way out with the information for the organizations that the family would like remembered in Ruth's memory. At this time, I would like to ask everyone to please rise as we conclude this service with the traditional memorial prayer. El mole rachamim shochein b'maromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim utahorim kezohar orakia mazirim et nishmat ha'isha Rivka bat Reb Shlomo שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהי מנוחתה. אנא בעל הרחמים הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure. To the soul of Rivka bat Reb Shlomo, Mrs. Ruth Wilk, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.